This video is for educational purposes only. I am not a licensed medical professional. These are all alternative practices and experiences. Nothing I'm saying is supported or has been evaluated by mainstream science. Always consult a professional before making any changes. Viewer discretion is advised. This content may be sensitive to some people. What's up, everybody? So today I wanted to bring a very important topic to you guys. It's one of the most important things if you're going to be healing. It's foods to avoid, and if you just care about longevity in general, or maybe you have a little kid and you want to feed them healthy food, you care about their lifespan, these are foods that you need to avoid. These are the most weaponized foods. I recommend you guys getting a notebook out. I'm going to be going over different categories, and in each category I'm going to put up a list for a short second of all the different foods that are in that category. But without further ado, we're just going to jump right in and get started. So when I started my health journey, one of the first things I cut out was GMOs, and GMOs are a fairly new thing. They've been around since the 90s, I believe, and GMO is also called genetically modified organisms, but nowadays they're calling it bioengineered because it sounds less scary. And they said that the FDA did all the testing on GMOs, but just to let you guys know, the FDA does not regulate anything. When a new food product is created, they don't have to experiment with it, they don't have to research it at all. The FDA says it's up to whoever is producing that to do that research and make sure their product is safe. So just to let you guys know, the FDA does not regulate anything, which is the Food and Drug Administration. But number one, we're going to be talking about GMOs, and GMOs is a very hard one to cut out. The main GMOs that is in 80 to 90% of the food supply is corn, wheat, soy, and sugar. Corn, wheat, soy, and sugar. If you're eating corn, wheat, soy, or sugar, there's a 96% chance or more that it's GMO. Why 96% chance? Well, because 96% of all four of those things grown are GMO. Just to give you guys a little bit of an example, like if you look it up online, they'll say GMOs are safe, this, that. But just to give you an example on how the GMO works, so you're basically taking something that you want and splicing it into the genetics of the food, into the plant, into the animal, whatever you want. There's GMO salmon out there as well. So there's GMO animals that we know of that they're telling us about. But just to give you an example, so conventional farming is all wrong. We'll talk about that more. But in conventional farming, they use Roundup a lot, or glyphosate. And one of the GMOs that they've done to corn, wheat, and soy is they can spray that plant that they're farming with Roundup, with a weed killer, but that plant doesn't die. Why? Because they have taken the glyphosate molecule, which is the chemical in weed killers, and they've put it inside that plant. So even if they didn't douse your plant, your food, with that chemical, it's genetically spliced into it. You're eating it. And there's a big misconception about gluten and allergy, gluten intolerance, whatever you want to call it. And it's not gluten that people are having a reaction to, it's the glyphosate inside of it, inside of that food. And they'll tell you glyphosate is safe too, Roundup is safe. But there's so many autoimmune diseases on the rise, and I myself have had an autoimmune disease and still do. Crohn's disease or Hashimoto's disease. And it's not just those autoimmune diseases. All these autoimmune diseases are being caused by foods we're eating, and mainly chemicals in agriculture. So if I eat wheat, corn, soy, which I don't eat soy at all, but if I eat one of those products and it says it's organic, and the next day I feel my stomach hurting, which this happens a lot. I know that there was glyphosate in that, or they lied and said that it was organic and it wasn't. So one of the best things you guys can do is always shop organic. That's a great rule of thumb. And even organic isn't all that safe. We'll talk about that more in this video. Especially in America, organic isn't safe. And it's very unfortunate that corn, wheat, soy, sugar, all those staple foods that are in a lot of our diets, they went ahead and perverted them and made them GMO, of course. And somebody might say, oh, well, they had to GMO it to grow it. Well, if you're having issues with your agriculture, then that means that the system you're using, the farming methods that we're using, which we know aren't sustainable, we know aren't good, you need to change that. That is the issue. But that's not even why they made GMO foods. They made GMO foods to weaponize and pervert the most common foods. And just so you guys are aware, there have been whistleblowers since GMOs have been invented, private scientists, private individuals who have studied this, universities, and they've been trying to blow the whistle on this for decades. But of course you guys don't hear about that. There's literally people who have dedicated their life to just spreading awareness on GMOs. And in Europe and in Russia and in other places around the world, that food is labeled not for human consumption. The food you are eating every single day is labeled not for human consumption. And in Russia, I don't know if this is true, but I've heard that if you're caught selling GMO food, you are put in prison and labeled as a terrorist. So you definitely don't want to be feeding yourself that. You definitely don't want to be feeding your children that as well. The most important time for nutrition is when you're growing and developing. So a lot of these things that I'm going to be talking about today, if you're feeding them to your kid or yourself now, guys, we really don't know the effects. We're not going to see the effects until we're later on in our life. And, you know, maybe our lifespan gets shortened to 40 or 30. You know, I mean, we're already seeing crazy things happen like that now with disease. But so just real quick, one more GMO that I want to talk about is a GMO that's in corn, and there's 50 different GMOs in corn. But just one of the ones we're going to be talking about is that when a beetle that attacks the corn and tries to kill the corn, a corn weevil, when that beetle bites the plant, it literally sizzles out its inside, okay? It sizzles out that beetle's inside. Now, why does that matter? Because honestly, we're not much different than bugs. They have similar organs to us. They're just a living creature. We're a living creature. You might not feel that damage done right there. It's not going to kill you on the spot. But guys, it's definitely doing the same exact thing to that creature as it's doing to you. So just keep that in mind. I'm only going to touch on each of these things a little bit. This is something that you guys need to research more yourself, and there's always two sides to every story. We talked about GMOs, and GMOs are pushed super heavy in everybody's diet. And another thing that's pushed very heavy on everybody's diet is seed oils. You basically can't go to any restaurant and not get some kind of oil on your food. Everybody's cooking with oil, and canola oil, sunflower oil, soy oil, safflower oil, animal lard, that's causing inflammation in your body. And so a couple of those, high fructose corn syrup is another one. So a couple of those things that I just said about GMOs, imagine taking that GMO crop, and oil is a concentrate. So you're taking that GMO crop and then you're concentrating all of those GMOs into an oil, and that's essentially what you're eating. And they're proven to cause autoimmune diseases. They're proven to destroy your mitochondria health. They're proven to cause all types of inflammation in the body. And it's proven that to detox those, it takes 2 years for them to start getting out of your body. 2 years. So it's very, very hard, and there's not many restaurants you're going to be able to go to that have options for you. You're going to have to cut out a lot of the places you like to eat. And for everything I'm about to talk about, you're going to have to just start cooking food yourself, really, if you care about your health. And oh, that's hard, and this video isn't for everybody. This video is for people who are really serious about healing. Maybe they're on their deathbed, or maybe you really care about your longevity. But there'll still be some food options out there for you at certain restaurants. Like, you can go and get a raw sushi, or ask them to cook with a different type of oil. For the most part, the only oil I eat is coconut oil, and that's all I cook my food with. I'll occasionally make the exception to use olive oil, but seed oils are very important to cut out. So something else that they push really hard on kids' food, candies, snacks, junk food, is artificial colors. All those red colors, those blue colors, those yellow colors, they're artificial. They don't need to be in there. The fact that they're in there is very suspicious. They know that certain color foods make your emotions stimulate and you react differently. Maybe you drive past the McDonald's sign, you see that yellow sign, and then you pull in there. They know what it does. So the fact that they're putting colors in your food to begin with is a little weird. It's not that weird because they could be using an alternative to these chemical colorings, like a vegetable coloring, for example. If you wanted something colored red, you could use beet juice or just tons of other stuff out there that's actually healthy for us. But the fact that they're putting that in all this food and pushing it so hard should definitely raise a red flag. And it's proven that those artificial colors, they're endocrine disruptors. What does that mean? It causes ADHD, it causes hyperactive disorder, all that kind of stuff. And like I said earlier, if you're somebody that's developing, you're under the age of 21, your brain's still growing, your body's still growing, guys, you're eating endocrine disruptors, okay? Who knows? God only knows what that does to your long term, to your, it's no wonder why America's in such a mental health crisis. It's no wonder. And it's not just these endocrine disruptors, it's fragrances as well. Fragrances cause behavioral issues, and fragrances, and also heavy metals. Heavy metals in your brain are really, really dangerous. Food coloring, stay away from all the food colorings. Blue 40, yellow 40, whatever. I don't even know the numbers because that stuff has been out of my diet for so long. But unfortunately, as a kid, I ate it every single day. And also those endocrine disruptors will also cause things like anxiety and depression as well, especially in young people. But like I said, the effects long-term on a lot of this stuff, we're not gonna know for a couple more years. Another big one that you're gonna want to avoid is synthetic vitamins. And there is a ton of synthetic vitamins, and they like to call it, whatever, vitamin C. It was lab made, it's synthetic made. We don't get our vitamins from something lab made. We get our vitamins from eating fruits and vegetables. That's the craziest thing to me, that they've tricked everybody to take a multivitamin and they color it a certain way. But really, if you're just somebody who's eating healthy food, whole foods, you're gonna get plenty of vitamins and plenty of nutrients. And it's proven that those vitamins, they give you such a mega dose because your body doesn't know how to absorb it. It's not real, it's not natural, it's literally synthetic. Of course our body's not gonna be able to absorb it. I don't know if you guys can see, but right behind me there is a wild citrus tree, and it's covered in fruits. And why am I talking about this with synthetic vitamins is because the Florida citrus industry is dead. It's on its way out the door right now, and it's because of all these unsustainable farming practices and what they feed the trees. They're growing the trees in sand, they're not growing any soil. But what they do is they throw these synthetic pellets on top of the ground, and all the trees are dying. They don't live for more than 4 or 5 years in Florida. They get killed by a disease because they have no immune system, they have no living soil web taking care of the tree. But when you come into the woods, nobody's watering these trees, nobody's fertilizing these trees, nobody's spraying pesticides on these trees. They have a living soil web. They're getting their vitamins, their nutrients, just like us, from a natural source, from being in all this biodiverse biomass. But it's the same thing. The tree in the woods is doing fine. The people taking the synthetic vitamin every single day, they don't even know why they're doing it. They could just eat a fruit and vegetable. Just read your vitamins, see how they're derived. If it's some crazy lab-made ingredient that you can't even pronounce, then you definitely shouldn't be taking it. Your body literally rejects those synthetic vitamins because it's a foreign object. It's It's not something our body was meant to be able to break down and absorb to begin with. So another really big one I'm going to talk about is preservatives, and there's a whole lot of preservatives. And two of the main ones I'm going to be talking about is citric acid and absorbic acid. There's a lot more, but citric acid is pushed in so much food, and it's one of those ones that's in organic food. And if you look up how citric acid is derived, it's grown on black mold. Okay, so somewhere underground or something like that, there's huge facilities growing black mold and harvesting citric acid. So that is very, very suspicious, and it's proven that citric acid destroys mitochondria health. It destroys your mitochondria health. Your mitochondria health it's your longevity, it's everything, it's your healing. So the fact that they push that ingredient in so much food, especially even in organic food, but especially in kids' food, and like when we went to Brazil, citric acid was in basically everything there as well. So the fact that they're pushing it in other countries is just, it's so suspicious to me. Like, what did we use as a preservative before? We don't need citric acid. Citric acid is something new. It hasn't been around forever. We don't need to be using it. They're using it for a reason. And tell me why. I can buy a spaghetti sauce that has 4 different ingredients, tomato paste, and then the herbs and spices, and that one costs $10. Or I could buy the tomato sauce, the pasta sauce, with 50 ingredients, but that one costs $5. Why does that make sense? It doesn't make any sense. That should be a big red flag to you right there. Go into the grocery store, do exactly what I just said, pick up 2 different objects, 2 different things, look at the prices, and just compare. It doesn't add up. Another preservative that has been around since the beginning of time, and it is something that we need in a very micro dose, is salt. And they're using salt as a weapon. Salt is being used way too much, and there's way too many health problems that come along with salt. Heart disease, high blood pressure, it's crazy. And eating too much salt is definitely, your body has to counteract that salt. It has to get it out of you, but it's definitely going to make you not heal as quickly, and it's definitely going to shorten your life if you're eating a lot of salt. A couple other preservatives I'm going to talk about is xanthan gum, guar gum, acacia gum. These gums, as well as the seed oils, they really cause inflammation in your body and disrupt your gut. So you want to avoid those as well. You'll see those thrown in there, and those are even in organic products as well. But again, I want to tell you guys that our organic food in Canada, in Europe, in Russia is banned. So the last category I'm going to be going over real quick here is nanotech. And nanotech has been around since the 90s. They use it in food packaging, and they also use it in foods as well. A lot of times you'll see them in there as an anti-caking agent. So if you buy like a spice or some kind of powder, like protein powder or something, there might be an anti-caking agent in there that is a nanotech, and the nanotech is so small that it penetrates your blood-brain barrier. So if the nanotech, this is just an example, if the nanotech was falling from the sky and landed on your skin, it's actually it's so small that it's gonna absorb through your skin, go into your bloodstream. And there's a lot of different nanotechs. There's even a turmeric nanotech, silicone dioxide, titanium dioxide. There's gonna be a big list, and you guys need to learn these to avoid them in your food. And there's even nanotech allowed in organic food, which is crazy to me. So what the nanotech is being shown to do now, because like I said at the beginning of the video, the FDA does not need to regulate anything. They don't regulate anything, okay? It's up to the person who invented whatever they're selling to do the proper testing on it and ensure that it's safe. And so what the nanotech is doing, now it's getting proven, is that it's building in pockets around people's hearts because it's so small, it can penetrate and go into your bloodstream. And it's building in pockets around people's brains too. So strokes and heart attacks, it's no wonder that those are on the rise, because there's freaking foreign objects building around people's hearts and in people's brains. So definitely stay away from all the nanotech. It's really hard because, like I said, it's in packaging too, and they use it as a coloring agent in packaging. And even as a kid, if I noticed that certain plastics I would rip open would leave like this residue on my skin after, and that is literally the nanotech. Like, you can rip it and it like kind of like sprays it everywhere almost. So as this tangerine just busted on me, I don't know if you guys can see that. That's exactly what the nanotech plastic does when you rip it. That's what I'm talking about right there. Like, you can rip it and it just sprays like that. Almost, it's really weird, but it's in packaging and it's in our food, and it's not safe, it's not normal, hasn't been around long enough. So basically, just a rule of thumb for this video is we're trying to avoid the grocery store altogether. Okay, that is the food that you want to avoid. It doesn't matter if it's organic. I just told you organic food in America isn't even safe. Yes, it's a lot safer, and yes, you should be purchasing that instead of the other thing, but the end goal for every single person should be to produce as much stuff as you can. Whether it's eggs, whether it's fruits, whether it's vegetables, whatever it is, you should be trying to produce it yourself. And we should be trying to cut the grocery store out, because the more hands that product touches, the more backs of trucks it was in and just packaging it was in, and they added this spice from this farm and this from this farm. It's chemicals, it's contaminated. We don't want that. If we actually started to test a lot of these food products we're eating, there would be tons of heavy metal contaminants in it, tons of glyphosate, like I was talking about, the Roundup, and it's just very scary. There's no regulation. America's the Wild West when it comes to freaking food and when it comes to chemicals, and yeah, we're producing more chemicals than any other country in the whole entire world, and nobody's testing them. And even if we are testing them, well, it takes years and years and years to know the effects. So we just need to be growing it ourselves. That's the real goal here. And another great rule of thumb to go off of is, if you can't pronounce it, if it's not a herb, if you cannot pronounce it, you should not be taking it. And that's just period right there. You shouldn't be buying it, and you definitely shouldn't be putting it in your body. Well, that's it for this video. If you made it this far, I hope you guys took notes, and I'm sure if you made it this far that you're serious about taking care of yourself or taking care of your kid or healing through whatever you're going through. And I guarantee you, I promise you, if you start cutting these things out little by little, it's very hard to do it, to go cold turkey. It's almost impossible. If you start cutting these things out of your diet, you will 100% heal faster, you will feel better, have better energy, and you will most definitely live longer. So as I was just sitting here eating this tangerine, one more food popped into my head to avoid, and that would be fruits without these right here. So fruits without seeds, 99% of the time, weren't naturally bred that way. They used a chemical to make the plant sterile, and it's proven that if you're eating that seedless fruit, that fruit is sterile. It's going to be making you more sterile too as well. So make sure to stay away from seedless fruits too, because we need seeds. Those are life. Those are future generations' food. That's clean air, that's shade, that's everything right there. That is life. So avoid seedless fruits.